In the heart of the desert, where the sands glowed red beneath the twilight sun, there stood a fire temple, its walls of white stone older than memory itself. Within, the sacred flame of Ahura Mazda burned, fed by the priests day and night so it would never perish. On a night when thunder split the heavens and clouds cloaked the moon, the flame changed its color. It leapt high, and the fire turned from gold to a strange blue, hissing like a serpent in pain. The high priest, his beard white as salt, his eyes dim from decades of gazing into the eternal flame, raised his trembling arms. A vision pierced him. He saw a fortress crumble, its people slain, its banners torn. Yet he also saw something more. A light rising from ashes, words carved into stone, voices of unborn generations whispering in reverence. His voice quivered as he cried to the gathered priests. A day of trial shall come for Nasar. The king will stand between two fates, life in shame or death in glory. The flame warns us. Honor may demand blood, and immortality may be born from ruin. The storm outside howled like a legion of demons. Sparks burst upward as though the fire itself spoke. The prophecy spread swiftly through the city by morning. Mothers whispered it to their sons, warriors muttered it as they sharpened their blades, and in the palace Shah Ardeshir heard of it. Nasar, jewel of the desert, rose proud against the endless sands. Its walls of pale limestone shone like ivory under the sun. Tall towers marked its gates, and above them flew banners of deep crimson, stitched with the golden lion, symbol of Persia's eternal might. Within the walls were gardens with pools fed by aqueducts, where cypress trees swayed in the dry wind. Merchants from distant lands crowded the bazaars, their caravans loaded with silk, lapis lazuli, and saffron. To the north, the mountains cast their cool shadow. To the south, the desert stretched into infinity. But beneath the beauty was unease. The people remembered Turan, the kingdom beyond the steppes, forever Persia's rival. The prophecy gnawed at their hearts. Would Nasar be the fortress that perished? Would their sons' blood water the sand? In the palace hall, lined with pillars carved with winged bulls and lotus blossoms, sat Shah Ardeshir. His crown gleamed with rubies, his robe was woven of silk and gold, yet his face was marked by the burden of rule. He was not an old man, but his eyes carried storms. Behind him stretched a vast mural, the painted likeness of Rostam, the hero of heroes, slaying the white demon. The mural seemed alive in the torchlight, its colors glowing as though blood and fire still coursed through it. The Shah often turned to this image for strength. He murmured to himself, "If Rostam could face demons, can I not face kings of flesh and bone?" He had heard the prophecy. It lingered in his thoughts, pressing on him with the weight of destiny. He knew the hour was near when choice would be demanded of him. One morning, under a sky veiled by dust, a column of riders approached the gates of Nasar. They bore no banners of war, but the white of truce. Their leader wore a cloak as black as night, and in his hand he carried a sealed scroll. The gates opened, and the ambassadors entered the city. Citizens watched with narrowed eyes, whispering curses. The riders dismounted before the Golden Palace and were led into the hall of the Shah. There, in a voice dripping with arrogance, the Turanian envoy read the message. "Thus speaks the great Khan of Turan. Bow your heads, O Persians, and become servants to our empire. Send gold, silver, and tribute, and your city shall be spared. Resist, and we shall grind Nasar to dust beneath our hooves." The words hung in the air like venom. The hall fell silent. The courtiers broke into whispers. Some trembled openly. One elder statesman fell to his knees and cried, "Great Shah, let us yield. Better to live as vassals than perish as bones in the desert. Life, even in chains, is sweeter than death." Another shouted, "No. Submission is poison. To live without honor is a living death. Have we forgotten we are Persians? The court split, voices clashing like steel on steel. Fear battled pride, cowardice battled courage. Shah Ardeshir listened, his jaw set, his fingers tightening on the arm of his throne. He spoke not a word. Instead, his gaze drifted upward, to the mural of Rostam. The painted eyes of the hero seemed to pierce him, as if to say, "Choose well, descendant of Persia, for your name shall echo through ages." That night, Ardeshir could not rest. He walked alone through the palace gardens, under the whispering cypress trees. The moon was high, casting pale light upon the fountains. He mounted his black stallion and rode out beyond the walls into the open desert. There, alone beneath the endless stars, he halted. The silence was vast, broken only by the breath of the horse and the beating of his own heart. The sky darkened as if the heavens themselves mourned. Armin, commander of Naysar's archers, raised his hand. With a cry like thunder, he released the first shaft, and 1,000 arrows followed, blackening the horizon. They fell upon the armies of Turan like a storm of iron rain. Horses shrieked, men fell screaming, and shields rattled under the weight of Naysar's defiance. But the enemy was vast, their banner stretching like a sea of fire. For every soldier pierced, 10 more pressed forward. Drums thundered across the desert plain, and the sand shook under countless hooves. The warriors of Turan advanced, shouting curses against Naysar, their blades thirsting for submission. From atop the walls, Shah Ardeshir stood tall in silver armor. His black stallion snorted beneath him, restless as if it, too, sensed fate drawing near. Ardeshir lifted his sword, and the sunlight caught the blade like lightning. His voice rang across the walls. "Men of Naysar, sons of Persia, today we fight not for land nor gold, but for honor. Better to die with our heads high than live as slaves with broken backs. Remember this, a coward dies many times, but the brave die once and live forever in memory." The cry shook the very stones of the city. Soldiers who moments before trembled with fear now gripped their spears with fire in their eyes. The women of Naysar climbed the towers, singing old war songs that echoed like laments of angels. Children watched from behind their mothers' veils, their faces pale, yet glowing with the pride of their fathers. A fragment of song rose from the walls, sung by a young soldier's trembling voice. "Steel may break, and flesh may fall, but honor stands beyond the grave. Fire may take this city's soul, yet shame shall never chain the brave." The Turanian war machines groaned as they rolled forward, massive towers of wood and iron. Boulders, hurled by great catapults, smashed against Naysar's gates. Flames licked at the walls. The defenders answered with boiling oil, with rocks, with arrows tipped in fire. For 3 days and nights the city roared like a wounded lion, refusing to bow. But fate is merciless. On the 4th dawn, the Turanian king himself rode forward, a giant on a horse clad in bronze, his crown gleaming like a sun of blood. He raised his mace and called across the plain, "Ardeshir, surrender your city, and I will spare your people. Resist, and I will grind Naysar into ash." Ardeshir rode out from the gates, alone, his silver armor radiant in the dawn. He faced the king of Turan, his voice clear as a temple bell. "We will never kneel. Better to be dust in the wind, carried free across the desert, than chained in your courts. Strike, and let the heavens judge between us." The Turanian king roared, and battle was joined. The armies clashed in a storm of blood. Armin's archers rained shafts until their quivers lay empty, then drew swords and fought hand to hand. Spears shattered, shields split, the cries of men and horses blended into a single thunderous hymn of war. The sands turned red. Amid the chaos, Ardeshir fought like a lion possessed. his blade cut through mail and bone alike. He seemed more than mortal, as though the spirit of Rostam himself had descended to guide his arm. Wherever he rode, Naysar's warriors rallied, refusing to break. Yet even heroes bleed. Ardeshir's shoulder was pierced by a spear, his helmet cracked by a mace. Blood stained his armor, yet he did not fall. He lifted his sword once more and shouted words that rang louder than the clash of steel. "Brothers, this body will perish, but our honor is eternal. If I fall, let my death be the torch that lights your courage. Let every drop of blood be a seed of freedom." At that moment, a great shadow swept across the sky. The soldiers lifted their eyes in awe and fear, for above them soared the Simurgh, the legendary bird of wisdom, wings outspread like the vault of heaven. Its cry pierced the din of battle, a sound half mournful, half divine. To the men of Nysar, it was a sign that the gods bore witness. To the Turanians, it was an omen of doom. Ardeshir raised his eyes, and for a heartbeat he saw the bird's gaze upon him, piercing, eternal, filled with sorrow and pride. He knew then his fate was sealed. The Simurgh had not come to save him, but to carry his spirit beyond the veil. The enemy